All right. So of the three common characteristic, samaṇera lakkhana, anicca, dukkha, anatta. So far we have already discussed the first one, the anicca lakkhana, the characteristics of or the signs of impermanence. Okay? So what is the sign? When you look at the mental, physical nature, what do you discern in them? What are the signs that you discern in them that tells you that they are impermanent? Okay? That's the anicca lakkhana. Okay? So as we have discussed, so anicca lakkhana means the hutva abhavato. So the disappearance upon arising. Okay? So so this mental physical nature or mental physical phenomena, when you observe them carefully, so you notice that they disappear upon arising. Okay? So the moment it is arise, and then quickly they disappear, vanish completely, without any trace remaining. Okay? So vanish into thin air. Okay? So the disappearance, complete disappearance upon arising. That's anicca lakkhana. Okay? The signs of impermanence. So when the yogi note repeatedly that every single nature, whether mental or physical nature, that are noted, disappear upon arising. Again and again, when you note whether mental or physical nature, you see that they disappear upon arising. When you note tightness, the tightness disappear upon arising. When you note stiffness, stiffness also disappear upon arising. When you note knowing, the knowing also disappear upon arising. Every single nature, whether mental or physical nature that are noted, seen, discerned to be disappearing completely upon arising. So when the yogi not discern this nature of disappearance again and again and again, then you come to realize this nature of anicca, impermanence. Okay? So everything is disappearing. Okay? Everything is fleeting away. They are unstable. They are insecure. Nothing is secure from change. Everything necessarily disappear. Okay? There's nothing that is not that does not disappear. Okay? Without exception, everything that is not disappear upon arising. So the yogi comes to realize the nature of anicca. Okay? So nature of impermanence. Okay, so today we'll proceed to the next samaṇera lakkhana, that is dukkha lakkhana, characteristic of dukkha or suffering. Yeah, so today's talk is very suffering. Okay. Yeah. So again, in the Visuddhimagga, so they show us how this characteristic of suffering, how it is concealed. So, and how we can note in order to reveal nature of dukkha lakkhana. Excuse me. So it says, Dukkha lakanam abinha sampatipilanasa amanasikara irya patehi patichanata na upatati. So, dukkha lakanam na upatati. So the characteristic of dukkha, dukkha lakana, the characteristic of dukkha, or the signs of dukkha, the signs that tells you that it is suffering, it is dukkha. Okay? So na upatati, okay? It does not become apparent. Okay? Why? Why does it not become apparent? Abinha sampati bilanasa amanasikara. Because when the continuous oppression, abinha sampati bilana, continuous oppression, amanasikara, when you do not pay attention to this continuous oppression. So, iriya patehi patichanata, it is consumed by pasture. Yes. So, you understand this? So we need to break it down. First, he talks about the dukkha lakana, characteristic of dukkha. So what is this characteristic of dukkha? What is the signs of dukkha? So when you note this mental physical nature that is continuously occurring, what is it about them that tells you that they are suffering? Okay. So this is explained as abinha patipilanatena dukkham. Okay, so dukkha, it is dukkha, it is suffering, in the sense that it is continuously being oppressed. That's the meaning of dukkha. That is the sense, what it means by dukkha. It's dukkha in the sense that is continuously being oppressed. Okay? Oppressed by what? Oppressed by rise and fall. Okay? So the signs of dukkha, the characteristic of dukkha, dukkha lakana, is this continuous oppression by rise and fall. Okay? So again, you can see here, this is based on sankhata lakana, the conditioned nature, rising, disappearing. Okay? So when the yogi, when the mind is clear due to development of samadhi, okay, so you discern this continuous moment to moment arising and disappearance of each mental and physical nature. Okay? So again and again, you see arising, disappearing, arising, disappearing, arising, disappearing, never ending. It keeps occurring again and again and again, arising, disappearing. Okay. Yeah. So when the yogi discerns this continuously, he sees it's never ending. It comes again and again and again. It never stops. So when the yogi discerns this, he realized that at some point the yogi will begin to experience this continuous, never-ending rise and fall as oppressive, as unbearable, even miserable. So this is something that you need to experience for yourself. in order to understand. Otherwise, you never experienced this before. I tell you now, is it? What do you mean? Arising and disappearing also unbearable. The yogis who have experienced this before, it makes a lot of sense to them. It keeps coming continuously, never ending. You want it to stop, also it won't stop. So one yogi explained this, described this as like you're like continuously being shot by a machine gun. The bullet comes, so one after another, never ending. It's very oppressive. When your mind is so clear, with that kind of samadhi, your mind is so clear. This never ending arising, disappearing, will appear oppressive, unbearable, miserable. It's like a kind of pain, you know. And this is the nature of this nama rupa that constitute our existence. The very fundamental nature of the constituent of our existence is that of dukkha, this unbearable, miserable, oppressive nature of dukkha. Okay? Yes. Yeah. This one have to be experienced in order to be appreciated. But of course, when you actually experience it, you don't appreciate it because it's dukkha. This is called sankhara dukkha. Suffering and the nature of formation. It is in the very nature of formations, conditioned phenomena that arises and disappears continuously. So it is its very nature that it is oppressive. Okay, but this nature does not become apparent when you do not pay attention to the. It says here, you do not pay attention to continuous oppression. Okay, so this means that you do not practice Vipassana meditation, and so you do not discern clearly the moment-to-moment arising and disappearance continuously until you realize its oppressive nature. So this continuous oppression, I mean this continuous rise and fall, and you must discern it again and again and again and again continuously. Then only you begin to experience it as oppressive. Okay? You see a little bit here, a little bit there. It doesn't have much effect on the mind. Okay. So when it says it does not become apparent because when continuous oppression is not given attention to, you do not pay attention to continuous oppression, means you have not developed your Vipassana practice, noting until you can discern the oppressive nature of this continuous, never-ending moment-to-moment rise and fall of the mental physical nature. Okay? So when that cannot yet be discerned, so it is said that so this nature of suffering, this characteristic of suffering, is concealed. Concealed by what? By the posture. Okay. So what is the posture? Posture you already know. 4 postures. So when we meditate, we can meditate in 4 postures. Right? Walking, standing, sitting, and the favorite, all-time favorite, lying down. So, yeah, not encouraged for beginners. Sure to fall asleep. Okay? So you can meditate in these 4 postures. So it is said that when you do not pay attention, attention is not given to the continuous oppression by rise and fall. the characteristic of dukkha. That means the oppressive nature of the nama rupa is concealed by the posture. Okay? So what does this mean? This actually means it's concealed by change of posture. So change of posture. That means you're continuously changing your posture. In other words, you're shifting your body about. Right? So this is usually what happens when you are not meditating, right? So when you're not meditating, what do you do most of the time? Your body is very active, moving around, right? So even when you are sitting, you think you're sitting very still, right? So maybe you're reading a book. Oh, I'm so still, I'm reading a book. Are you really still? Are you really sitting still? So if you say you're really sitting still, then you must not be very mindful of the body. Your whole attention may be on the book, so you do not realize. Actually, even when you're sitting still like this, the moment you feel a little bit discomfort, what do? You start to shift, right? And usually you're unconscious about it. You're not aware of it. If your whole attention is on your book, you keep shifting about, but you don't notice it. Right? So this is called changing posture. If you keep changing, shifting, the moment you feel discomfort, you don't feel uncomfortable, you shift. Then the true nature of suffering in the body will be hidden away, concealed. So you cannot discern it clearly. You notice this also sometimes when people feel uncomfortable, right? What do? They keep fidgeting, right? So hand like that. So so that is a kind of distraction also. So you're trying to distract yourself away from the discomfort that you are feeling. So therefore you cover up the oppressive nature of the body. So by keep changing the posture, that means you keep running away from the true nature of suffering, instead of turning to face this nature of suffering. You keep running away from it. So when you keep running away from it, that is concealed. The true nature of suffering is concealed. You cannot discern it. So therefore, when it comes to Vipassana meditation, one of the first things we tell you is that when you sit, you must sit still. You must not move. Okay? So this is very difficult for beginners. Right? Even after very clear instruction, don't move. The moment you feel discomfort, you start to move. And the moment you feel itchy, the hand come up already. So without you realizing, that is all the unmindful habits coming back from your everyday life. So you must train until you are able to sit still. Moment some discomfort arise, you must not. Itchiness arise, no. Intention want to move, you must not intention. Not until the intention disappear. When intention disappear, that means no more intention to move. Then you remain still. You want to scratch, not intention to scratch. Not until it disappear. Don't act on it, but not until it disappear. Then you no longer want to scratch. Then where does your attention move to? to the most prominent object, the itchiness. Then you're not itchy. You don't run away from suffering. Yeah, you remain still and you face the nature of suffering. Right? So in meditation, we train to sit still, don't move. Make aditana, I will not move. I will remain still. So then you begin to notice. If you sit still, you begin to notice. You make note. Let's say you begin to notice in the object that you are noting all the nature, the sabhava lakkhana. Tightness, stiffness, pressure, hard, soft, and so on. Okay? So take for example, you're noting the sitting posture, sitting. You bring your attention to the sitting posture, the upright sitting posture. So you're not sitting, and then as you note, and you begin to notice the nature of sabhava, stiffness, the tightness, that's holding the body. That's the wind element. So you feel it as the nature of stiffness, nature of tightness, okay? The support. That's wind element. So you notice, you note stiffness, tightness, one after another, occurring. At first, when you're not sitting, and you feel stiffness, tightness, at first it may appear a very nice, firm posture. So you may even feel comfortable. But as you keep noting continuously, again and again, sitting, when you are noted long enough, after a while, this continuous, never-ending arising of stiffness or tightness, it starts to feel uncomfortable. You start to feel the oppressive nature. So after a while, it becomes uncomfortable, right? But you keep noting. So it keeps arising more and more, and it becomes more and more uncomfortable, more and more oppressive. So this continuous, never-ending arising. You start to discern its oppressive nature. That is dukkha lakkhana. Okay. And it's not just arising, nature of arising that is oppressive. So remember, dukkha lakkhana means the oppressive oppression due to continuous rise and fall. So it's not just arising that is oppressive. Yes, continuous arising is very oppressive. Okay? If you keep holding your mind, focus, attention on this continuous arising, eventually you feel the oppressive nature. Even rising, falling also. Tightness, one after another arising. After a while, you start to feel the oppressive nature of this. So, but it's not just arising that is oppressive. Disappearance, falling away also is oppressive. In fact, disappearance, falling away, breaking up is even more oppressive. So, this is especially clear when the yogi develop the insight beyond the fifth insight, Dukanyana, knowledge of dissolution. Okay? So beginning from this fifth insight at Dukanyana, the knowledge of dissolution. When a yogi comes to knowledge of dissolution, He discerns only the very rapid disappearance of each object that is noted. Okay, whatever is noted, he sees it only disappear. So when you note like tightness, tightness disappear. The moment it notes, it's already disappearing because it's so fast that the yogi has no time to catch its moment of arising. So the moment the attention goes to it, it's already disappearing. So that means the mind is actually very precise in the moment already. So it's so fast. So it's one after another. Everything that is not there is disappearing. So at that time, the yogi, usually at that time, the yogi will notice the object and the knowing of the object disappearing together in pairs. Everything is object knowing dissolving away. Next moment, object knowing dissolving away, disappearing. Okay? And this is so fast that you do not no longer discern the arising. Okay? And this is when the very definite form and shape of the object will also dissolve away, disappear. So when it comes to Dukanyana, the yogi, that is when the yogi really cannot discern the form and shape of this body because everything is dissolving away. The moment you know it's disappearing, already disappearing. You clearly discern the form and shape. You must notice the arising. When you are still noticing the arising of the nature, mental, physical nature, then you can see a very the concept of the form and shape of the object may still arise. But when everything is just dissolving, disappearing, this form and shape can no longer be discerned clearly. Okay? So everything is like in a blur, like flitting away. That's why when yogis first begin to experience Dukanyana, some yogis think that their noting is now not clear. Because everything is disappearing. So the yogi thinks that, oh, my practice is suffering a setback. So, but actually it is not a setback. Actually it's because your mind becoming clearer. So because it's clearer, it's sharper, so every time it notes very fast, then all it sees is just disappearing, flitting away. Yeah? So this means that when you note, actually the mind is going straight into the nature of anicca. And what is the nature of anicca? It's the disappearance. Right? The disappearance upon arising. Here the mind goes straight to the nature of disappearance. So it means straight to the nature of anicca. Every moment you know it's just anicca, breaking up, disappearing. So this is a very highly developed state of insight, Dukanyana. Yeah. It's beginning from here. That you see, is it Balawa Vipassana, a stage of powerful insight. Because it is beginning from Dukanyana, that the mind begin to be transformed. That's where the defilements, because of this powerful insight, because the mind goes straight into nature, anicca again and again. So the insight becomes very deep, very powerful. It's able to shake up the defilements, shake away the defilements. Before that, the defilements still cannot be shaken. The root is still very strong. So even Udayabaya also, especially the beginning stage of Udayabaya, still not strong enough yet. So when it comes to Udayabha, when it comes to Dukanyana, it's very powerful. So the defilements, this is where it called Pahana Parinya. So you're able to shake away the defilements. Okay. So, and immediately following Dukanyana comes this series of insight, which collectively we call it the Dukanyana. And that is when the yogi begin to discern the very stark oppressive nature of this never-ending, continuous breaking up of this nama rupa. So, that's when the yogi begin to discern this fearful nature. Everything is breaking up, dissolving away, disappearing. There's nothing good in this. In fact, it's very fearful. What is it that is breaking up? It's your existence itself, right? The five aggregates, nama rupa, is breaking up. So your existence itself, is moment to moment, is breaking up, disappearing. That means you have no steady foundation. Existence have no steady foundation. Everything is breaking up. It's like you step into a room, and then the floor underneath you immediately disappear. And then you jump to another place, and then you step on it. And the moment you step on it, that floor also disappear. You jump to another place on the floor, again that also disappear. Right? So there's no steadiness. You have nowhere to stand, no foundation to stand. Everything is dissolving, disappearing, breaking up. So it's fearful. And the yogi discerns this. Existence is actually very fearful. There's nothing good in it. Everything is dissolving away. So at that time, your world is very different from the conceptual world that you live in. In the conceptual world, everything looks so stable. You see this mic, I've been using it for how many years? It's still there, right? This robe has been wearing for 1 year, it's still there. So everything looks very stable. But when you come to this Dukanyana and beyond that, everything is breaking up, dissolving. Your whole of your existence is dissolving. So it's very fearful. You realize actually your existence is very fragile, very unstable. So you also discern the miserable nature. Sometimes the yogi will feel very miserable as he keeps discerning this continuous rise and fall, disappearing again and again. I feel very unbearable. So there's this series of insight. So after Dukanyana, so knowledge of fearfulness, Bhayanyana, Adinavanyana, knowledge of miserableness, Nibbidanyana, knowledge of disgust, disenchantment, Mancintukamnyatanyana, you desire deliverance, you don't want to have anything to do with it, want to be free. Patisankanyana, knowledge of re-observation. So this series of jnana, insight, this is actually the most difficult stage in the development of insight. Okay? So it's a very most difficult stage. So the suffering that you experience during samasana jnana, the third insight, samasana jnana, some of you might have encountered, you feel itchiness all over, ants crawling and all this sensation. You feel pain here, pain there, everywhere pain. There is nothing compared to this Dukanyana. So because you are feeling the suffering at the very heart of your existence, the very constituent of your existence itself, the five aggregates, it's very oppressive. Okay? So the very fabric of your existence is the nature of suffering. Okay? So when the yogi experiences again and again and again this miserable nature, this oppressive nature, so the yogi, the mind becomes totally disenchanted, disgusted with this process of suffering. So the other day we quoted from the Dhammapada, right? So sabbe sankhara aniccati yadapanyaya pasati atani bindati dukke esamago visuddhiya. Right? All sankharas, all formation, mental, physical nature, they are impermanent. Right? When one discerns this with wisdom, that means with clear insight, Vipassana insight, atani bindati dukke, then one becomes disgusted, disenchanted with this process of dukkha. This is esamago visuddhiya. This is the path to purity. This is the way to purify the mind from the cause of suffering, attachment. So you discern again and again the oppressive nature. Mind lets go. It becomes totally disgusted, disenchanted with this process of suffering. It lets go of attachment to it. So if you do not practice Vipassana until this stage, every time you see, you delight in seeing. When you hear, you delight in hearing. Smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, you delight. Okay? But now, when you discern the oppressive nature, the mind lets go. So this is the way to purity. So again, the next verse, sabbe sankhara dukkhati yadapanyaya pasati atani bindati dukke esamago visuddhiya. When one discerns with clear Vipassana wisdom that all formations, all nama rupa are dukkha, that means you discern the dukkha lakkhana, the oppressive, continuous rise and fall. So then you become disenchanted, disgusted with this process of dukkha. Atta nibindati dukke esamago visuddhiya. And this is the path, the purity. Okay? Yeah. So the mind becomes totally disenchanted, disgusted with this process of suffering. You don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. You don't want to get involved with it. So it lets go. Right? That's where the power of relinquishment of the insight knowledge, power of letting go comes in, of turning away. The mind shrinks away from this process of suffering. That means the process of nama rupa. Then you desire to be delivered, to be free from this process of suffering. So muncin Dukanyana. He wants it to stop. He wants this whole process to come to cessation. Right? So we begin to turn away from it. Right? So actually the mind is seeking for the cessation of this process. That means it's seeking for what? What is the cessation of suffering? Nibbana. So the mind is seeking for Nibbana. Because of this powerful insight, the mind inclines to Nibbana. Okay? to the cessation of this process. Okay, but as long as the insight is not fully developed yet, not mature yet, it still cannot cease. It still goes on. Okay, so you want it to stop. It doesn't stop just because you want it to stop. Later we talk about characteristic of anatta. This is one of the characteristics of anatta. You cannot control it. So you want it to stop. It doesn't stop. So at this stage, when the yogi is so miserable, he just wants it to stop, but it doesn't stop. So some yogi resort to stop all nothing. So when you stop nothing, yes, it disappears. You no longer feel. So, but the moment you start noting again, it all come back. But when you stop noting, you no longer discern its nature, right? But once you start noting again, then it all come back again. Okay? So there's no way around it. Okay? Yeah, so the only way out of it is through it. You need to go through it. So you need to summon up the effort to note even more carefully nature, anicca, dukkha, anatta. So that's called patisankanyana, knowledge of re-observation. This is the stage when the yogi really wants to give up. It's a gulung tika. So that's when the teacher have a very difficult task of persuading the yogi. In Burma, it's very easy. In Burma, the Sayadaw say, no, you continue meditating, don't go back. Some yogi actually wants to go back, but the Sayadaw don't allow. Here we cannot not allow it. Because they don't allow, so they go back. But in Burma, because people have this very strong faith, they listen to their teacher. So when the teacher don't allow, so they continue to meditate. And the teacher encourage them. They practice with more faith. So they summon up effort. So they not until the insight mature. When the insight mature, then the mind stop becoming reactive to this nature of suffering. It becomes more steady, more equanimous towards the sankhara dukkha. So gradually it comes into the sankharopekanyana. So once you have passed the Dukanyana, which is the most difficult stage in the development of insight, you come to Sankharopekanyana, which is the most pleasant stage of insight. Just before Maganyana, of course. So the whole mind becomes completely steady, equanimous towards sankhara dukkha. Still discerning sankhara dukkha clearly. The oppressive nature all still there, but the whole mind becomes completely equanimous, steady, unshaken, unmoved. So it becomes like a mind of the arahants. Yes, at that time the yogi have a glimpse of how is it like. The mind of the arahants. That's how the mind of the arahants is like. Even though he live in the world experiencing all the nature of dukkha due to these five aggregates, even though he has carried the burden of the aggregates, but the mind is completely equanimous towards it. Posture, physical posture relates to the physical body, right? So if you keep changing your posture, so that conceals the nature of suffering in the body. But what about the mind? What about the nature of suffering of the mental phenomena? The Dhamma. Okay? So here the commentary did not say anything. He simply says that if you don't pay attention to the continuous oppression, moment to moment by rise and fall, then it is concealed by the posture. Beyond that, it doesn't say anything. So, especially about suffering in nature of mind. Okay, so, but we can extrapolate from what it says. So about this, keep this, how you continuously shift your posture. Okay, because you see, in our life also we are constantly searching for new objects, right? We are constantly searching for new objects in order to distract the mind and cover up the mental suffering, right? So if you do not constantly feed our mind with manifold objects, with all different types of objects, if you are, say, continuously experiencing the same object, what happens? After a while, you start to become bored, right? So you become bored, you start to become restless. Why restless? Because the mind is suffering, is bored. So then what do? You look for something new. So you run away. So you become restless. You start searching for new object. So your whole life, you're always searching for new objects, right? You're always looking for new music. This one, all record, don't listen so many times. That you can buy a new record, right? It's a new music, or new movie. Some movie is so good, some people actually watch it for 10 times. But after 10 times also, eventually you feel bored. You don't want to watch it anymore. Or they search for food, new food. If Sister Sam serves us same food every day, then we'll be very angry at her. Why? Because you feel bored. Right? Or some people search for new holiday destination. Every year must go to a new place. Right? So nowadays people search for new phone, new model come out already. I must get new tablet. So yeah, otherwise we feel bored. So you cannot be contented, right? Most people cannot be contented with using the same thing again and again, right? Yeah, I ask you, let's say favorite music. So I don't know what is your favorite music. Maybe one of those Beethoven or Mozart score. Okay, you like this music? Okay, I put you in a room. In a room got attached toilet. You don't have to come out. I serve you food in there. Everything you do in there, you don't come out. Whatever we want to give you. But in the room, we play you the music. Continuously. 24/7. Every hour of the day you play same music, repeat again and again and again and again. Even when you sleep, it's playing. You go toilet also, it's playing. When you're eating also, it's playing. What happened to you? After I think maybe a few hours, you start. I don't. Please change the music. But we don't change. We continue to play. I think after a few days, you might even grow mad. So our mind, you cannot stand experiencing the same thing repeatedly. It feels oppressive. There is one I saw this documentary before. It says in China in the old days, they have this very simple instrument of torture where they lie you down. And then what they do is they keep dripping water on your forehead. Just keep dripping water continuously for hours and hours and hours. It is said that people, many of them, cannot tahan after that. Yeah, it's the same experience again and again. It's a very simple instrument of torture. So we cannot stand experiencing the same thing again and again. Feel oppressive. So we constantly seek distraction. How? By looking for new, novel object that we have not experienced before. Even if we have experienced it before, but if let's say we have experienced something for a long time, and then we want to switch. Even if we have experienced a new object before, never mind, as long as we change the object. So we keep distracting our mind. So by seeking for objects, different objects again and again. This is running away from suffering. Just as we run away from the suffering of the body, so we are seeking new objects again and again. We are also running away from suffering in the mind, or the boredom or the restlessness. Some people distract their mind from this suffering by indulging in work, become a workaholic. So you indulge in your work, you go totally immersed in your work, you forget about all your suffering. So there are some people after, for example, some people after they suffer the death of a very close relative or friends, so they can't stop thinking about that pain of the loss of their friends or their relative. So they distract their attention by losing themselves in their work. So they work until late at night. Weekend also go and work. So distract themselves. Some distract themselves by doing dangerous things. So some get themselves involved with extreme sports. So by doing so, they distract their attention from their suffering. And of course, there is also the good old traditional drinking. Drown your sorrow in alcohol. So these are all different ways where people distract their attention, run away from suffering. So there's a kind of changing of posture in the mind. So just as you run away from the oppressiveness in the nature of the body, you also run away from the oppressiveness in the nature of the mind. So that's why when it comes to Vipassana meditation, so instead of changing posture, instead of changing object, posture or object, when we do not like it or we do not feel comfortable, we remain still. Right? Just because we don't like an object, no, we don't change the object. Like some yogis, they say, rising, falling, hold it, very boring. I change object. As far as nowadays people want to do Chitta Vipassana, oh, very interesting, watch the mind. But it's most of the time I notice because they feel rising, falling is boring. There's a kind of running away. You see? or you don't like it. Sometimes yogis like noting pain. They say, I know. But after a while, it's like, it doesn't change. So I come back to rising falling. That's just an excuse not to note the pain. So we train ourselves not to keep shifting or changing our object. We train ourselves to remain still with the posture, the body. If we sit still. When we walk for 1 hour without stopping. So you sustain your posture. Okay, and then you remain still in the posture, and then you observe the object. Observe the mental, physical nature that arise continuously. In whatever object that you are noting, note it continuously. You're not rising, falling, note continuously. Don't keep jumping from this object to that object to that object. That's why it says secondary object, you only note when they are prominent. If they are not prominent, you ignore. Hold your attention, sustain it on the primary object. Okay? You sustain it continuously. Don't keep switching from one object to another. So you hold it there continuously. You develop mindfulness, a concentration until the mind becomes clear enough. Then you can start to discern clearly nature rise and fall of each mental, physical nature that is noted. Okay? So because you remain still without trying to run away, trying to cover up the true nature of the mind and body, eventually, as you keep discerning the continuous, never-ending rise and fall of each mental and physical nature, eventually the true oppressive nature of this mind and body will reveal itself clearly. So you can notice, you realize how this process of nama rupa, how they are continuously being harassed, being oppressed by incessant rise and fall. You feel the oppressive nature, this terrible, fearful nature, the never-ending, continuous breaking up, the instability at the very core of your existence itself. Then you see the true nature of this dukkha lakkhana. So therefore, to discern clearly nature of dukkha, yogi must train themselves to remain still, unmoving. The body unmoving, the mind also unmoving. Still, remain still with the natural process of the nama rupa. Don't turn away from it. Keep holding your attention on this continuous process of the nama rupa. Don't try to run away from it, no matter how difficult it is. Must be open, accepting, surrender into the process, unfolding of the process of dukkha. Observe continuously. It's never ending, arising, disappearing, disappearing. The nature of anicca. Okay? So as you're contemplating the nature of anicca, this disappearing, continuous disappearing upon arising again and again. Eventually, the oppressive nature of this incessant, uncontrollable rise and fall will reveal itself clearly. It will become apparent. Okay? So the nature of dukkha, the oppressive nature of dukkha, becomes apparent through the nature of anicca. Okay? So by continuously discerning the nature of anicca again and again, breaking up, disappearing, then gradually you begin to feel the oppressive nature of this incessant arising and disappearing. So you see, discern the nature of dukkha through the nature of anicca. Okay, so this is called in the sutta, in the Girimananda Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya. one of the sanya that the Buddha mentioned is this anicca dukkha sanya. Okay? The perception of dukkha in anicca. The perception of suffering in impermanence. Okay? So it is suffering precisely because it is impermanent. Okay? So the nature of suffering is found in the nature of impermanence. So that's why the Buddha also said, yada niccam tam dukkham. That which is impermanent is suffering. That which is impermanent, that is suffering. Okay? Yeah, it is suffering precisely because it is impermanent. It is breaking up continuously. Again and again, breaking up, dissolving away, disappearing. It's unstable. Okay? So it is so this is called sankhara dukkha. So the nature of suffering, suffering in the nature of the sankhara, the formation, the condition phenomena. Because it's condition, it continuously arises and disappear. When there's condition, it arises. Condition dissolve, it also disappear. Again and again, it arises and disappear. And so the oppressive nature, due to the incessant rise and fall, that is called the nature of suffering. Okay, so suffering is due to anicca. Yeah, it is not due to the pain, or due to boredom. Some yogis say, I know the pain. I see dukkha. So I see I not rising, falling. The mind feel bored. The mind dukkha. This is a kind of dukkha. It is called dukkha. Okay, or apparent suffering. This is actually dukkha vedana. Okay, so but the real dukkha is not due to this pain, due to this boredom. Okay, the real dukkha is more how to say? It's more all-encompassing than just dukkha vedana. If you say dukkha vedana is dukkha, is suffering, that means when there is sukha vedana, then no more suffering. But the Buddha says that everything is suffering. Sabbe sankhara dukkha. All formations are dukkha. All formation, including also sukha vedana, is also dukkha. So dukkha, actually, the real meaning of dukkha is all-encompassing. It includes everything, all nama rupa. Okay, so not just dukkha, not just the dukkha vedana, but sankhara dukkha. Okay, so the nature of suffering in formations, due to the conditioned nature, it continuously arise, disappear, arise, disappear. So this continuous, never-ending breaking up again and again is oppressive nature. That is the real dukkha. That is the real nature of dukkha. And it is found in the nature of anicca. Right? And this is most clearly discerned during this series of Dukanyana. Okay? Because as we said just now, beginning from Banganyana, every time the mind notes, immediately goes into the nature of anicca. So the nature of anicca becomes very, very clear, apparent, beginning from Banganyana onwards. So that's why beginning, immediately following Banganyana, this Dukanyana arises. Because it discerns so clearly the nature of disappearing, the nature of anicca. Again and again, is breaking up. Therefore, the nature of dukkha also becomes very, very clear, very, very prominent. It's so prominent that it shakes up the whole mind, shake up the defilements. loosen up the defilements. So it cuts into the root of attachment. Yeah. So what is called insight into dukkha or Dukanyana? It is actually an experience. Okay, experience of dukkha lakkhana. Okay, the nature of oppressiveness due to continuous rise and fall. Okay, or the continuous oppression due to rise and fall, never-ending rise and fall. So when the yogi discerns this nature again and again and again clearly, that clarity of mind that discerns this nature of continuous oppression of rise and fall, that is called Dukanyana. Okay, insight into dukkha. So it is an experience, a direct experience into this dukkha lakkhana. Okay, so Dukanyana does not arise through thinking. Thinking, oh, this body is so painful. I got headache. I got tension here and there. Tension in the mind is so uncomfortable. These are all thinking. Okay, so these are not true insight. True insight comes from discerning again and again this oppressive nature in the nama rupa, how they continuously rise and fall. And often yogis, they just experience, when they experience this Dukanyana, they experience it without even realizing. So, because they are too caught up with the miserableness of the nature of suffering to realize that they are actually experiencing insight. In fact, sometimes many yogis even think that my practice is suffering a setback. All this uncomfortable feeling keeps arising. So they think that they are retrogressing in their practice. Okay? So they don't even see this as insight. You see? Yeah. Yeah. And there are various ways in which the yogi experience this nature of oppressive nature of dukkha. So this is described in the suttas as well as in the commentaries. So some experience it like a dart piercing. People throwing dart at you again and again. Just now I mentioned that the yogi says it's like being shot by the machine gun again and again. So here in the sutta, the Buddha talk about dart. People throwing dart at you again and again. Some yogis actually experience it like explosion again and again. Explode, explode, explode. So it's really very miserable, very oppressive. So the miserableness, the unbearableness also is a nature of dukkha that is experienced by yogi. So some yogi experience it as very miserable, very unbearable, chincha thangkho. So some experience it as very terrible. It's so terrible. Some experience it like an affliction, like a disease. Some experience it as fearful, as dangerous, as unreliable, unreliable refuge. You cannot rely on it. It's so unstable. How can you rely on it? Even the happiness that you so enjoy also break up. So this is the truth of suffering. Your happiness that you enjoy is also the truth of dukkha, the truth of suffering. It's no refuge. You try to rely on it as a source of happiness. It breaks up. So how can it be a reliable refuge? Right? And then some also experience it as murderous. Like a murderer, killing you again and again, stabbing you. Yes, it's very terrible when you experience the nature of dukkha. Yeah. Okay, so that's all on the nature of dukkha. So stop here today. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Buddham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Sangham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Mata Pitunam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Acariyanam Pujemi. Adha Imaya Patipadaya Jaramaranamha Primochisami. Idame Punyam Asavakaya Waham Hotu. Idame Punyam Nibbanasa Pacayo Hotu. Idame Silam Magaphalanyanasa Pacayo Hotu. Imam no Punya Bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Imam no Punya Bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Imam no Punya Bhagam Sabbasadanam Dema. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So may all of you be well, happy, and peaceful always. May all of you be safe, be strong, be healthy always. May you all be able to continuously practice the Dhamma without any trouble, without any obstacle, without any hindrances. So may your practice of the Dhamma always be smooth, and may you all be able to soon experience the unconditioned peace of Nibbana through your practice of the Dhamma.